Greetings, Internet! My name is Ace, and welcome to Boss Reviews, the Spooky Edition. Where I take one video game, look at all the bosses within it, and review them. Today, we're gonna look at a game with boss fights all centered around the Spooktober holiday, Halloween. What game would that be? Well, none other than the war-themed hat simulator, Team Fortress 2! This team-based multiplayer first-person shooter created by Valve Software and based off of a mod for the game Quake has been standing the test of time as it's hit its 11th anniversary. In that time, it's won a number of awards and has had over 40 major updates. Many best FPS lists often include Team Fortress 2, and there's no doubt as to why. But are its bosses any good? Well, before we find out, let's take a look at how 6 years of development and 11 years of updates make the game play. Team Fortress 2 has you playing on a team of up to 12 players trying to complete an objective. These can range from capturing areas on a map to pushing a payload to a destination. You either play on the attacking blue team or the defending red team, with the goal of stopping the other team from completing their objectives. I'd say the best way of preventing the other team from winning would be killing them, usually with whatever weapon your class uses. Whenever a player dies, they have to wait a few seconds before they can respawn. You have 9 classes to choose from, each with their own strengths, weaknesses, and weapons. I won't go into each class, as there is tons of things to go over, such as all the primary, secondary, and melee weapons of each class, but I will go over what each class is good for during the actual boss fights. But for the general look at controls, it plays a lot like the classic first-person shooter, Half-Life 2. You can move anywhere on a 3D plane, and can jump, crouch, and swim if needed. Attacking is as simple as aiming with your mouse and clicking, though some weapons have secondary uses, such as the Medigun's various Ubers and the flamethrower's air blasts, that are normally activated with a right-click. Kinda feels weird explaining something so commonly known, but these days there are unfortunately some people who have never played these games. Anywho, I think that about covers it for the gameplay. Let's get to the boss fights. In the Old Man Manor haunts the very first boss of Team Fortress 2. It's none other than the Horseless, Headless Horseman. Triple H, or as I'll refer to him, the Horseman, is a skeletal cloak-wearing boss with a pumpkin for a head that wants nothing other than to decapitate you with his giant axe. He'll rise from the control point that the blue team is currently trying to control after a certain amount of time. He'll then tag a person as it, marking them with a skull and crossbone above their head. He'll then begin to hunt down this player, swinging his axe at anyone that gets in his way. He can kill most of the lower health classes in just a single swing. If you get tagged as it, your best bet at staying alive is to either run or pull out your melee weapon and tag an enemy player. This will pass on the it status to them, making it so that you're not targeted by the Horseman. Of course, if whoever is it gets killed, the boss will then target the nearest player, regardless of team, and make them it. Sometimes, however, the Horseman will go, and anyone around him will go, ah! This scares the player, making them unable to attack for a few seconds and slowing down their movement speed. After taking enough damage, the Horseman will die, leaving the teams in peace to kill each other. So how difficult is this boss? Well, I would say it's kind of a mixed bag. The only penalty for dying to this boss is that you're going to have to wait a few seconds to respawn. He will eventually die, as any team is not going to want him interfering with their players, as they're either defending or capturing a point. He does have more health the more players there are in a game, so it is a bit balanced there. So it really is just a challenge of staying alive, not only against the boss, but against enemy players attacking you too. Some classes are better at killing him though. Scout and Medic can outrun the Horseman, being able to lead him into the enemy team. Soldier and Demo Man can also avoid the Horseman with their rocket and sticky bomb jumps while dealing out plenty of damage. The Sniper can stay safe far away, attacking with his sniper rifle, though his Huntsman bow will actually be better as it's the only weapon that will get headshots, doing more damage on the boss. Engineer can also deal tons of damage with his Sentry if it's placed in an area the Horseman can reach. Heavy can shred the boss easily, but has a hard time getting away if he gets tagged. Unfortunately, Pyro has to get real close to the boss to do a good amount of damage, making for an easy target, and the Spy just doesn't do a ton of damage with his gun and cannot backstab the boss, making them probably the worst classes to play as. Now for design, there is quite a bit to look at. First, the map. I really like the design of the map as it has a good spooky feel to it, even though it's just a reskin of a different map. There isn't any music, but the sounds of flying bullets and the screams of the decapitated players does make up for the lack of music during the game. The boss itself has a good design, it certainly looks spooky, and fits the Halloween theme well, while being a parody of the Headless Horseman story. The evil laughter and shaking of the screen as it runs around is great for making players panic. It is a simple boss, only having 2 things it can do, but that's fine, as it's the first ever boss for Team Fortress 2. Plus, I like how you can lead the horseman into the enemy so that's focusing on killing them instead of your team. So for a first boss fight, I think it's pretty well designed. I'm gonna have to say the Horseless Headless Horseman is a good boss fight. It's a simple fight, but that doesn't make it bad, especially for a multiplayer game. Our next boss actually has a bit of a story to it. When the Demo Man was 7, he was sent by his mother to find a job on Halloween night. He found one, cleaning the library of Marasmus the Magician. However, he was warned one thing: to not gaze upon one book in the library, the Abominomicon. Unfortunately, the book tricked the Demo Man into opening it, and possessed his eye. Marasmus was forced to remove it, leaving the Demo Man as a black Scottish Cyclops. Cut to years later, and it turns out that Marasmus is actually the soldier's roommate. After an argument at a Halloween party, Marasmus sicks the monster Monoculars, Demo Man's Abominomicon-possessed eye, at the mercenaries. The second boss fight of TF2, Monoculars, rises out of the control point just like the Horseman, but the similarities end there. Monoculars will vaporize anyone on the point when he arrives. He will then float around and shoot eyeball missiles at any player around him. These crit and do tons of damage, but thankfully are quite slow. However, if a player hits Monoculars with a crit, random or otherwise, Monoculars will get very angry. He'll start shooting 3 missiles in rapid succession that travel very fast. As long as he doesn't get hit by any more crits, Monoculars will soon calm down. At some point, Monoculars will teleport to somewhere else. He usually stays in the area around the main control point and on the edges of the center of the map. When he teleports, he will leave a purple swirling portal that draws players in. If someone gets sucked in, they'll find themselves in an area with small islands called the Underworld. They will have their health fully healed, but find that it will start to drain constantly. Players will have to run from one side of the island to the other into a glowing door before they die. If they manage to do so, they will reappear on the outskirts of the center of the map with their health restored, ubered, and crit boosted. If a player happens to shoot Monoculars while in this state, it will stun him, causing him to stop attacking and float down to the ground. The fight only lasts 2 minutes, and after that, Monoculars will leave. If players are able to kill Monoculars, he'll explode into a shower of Gerati, leaving behind the Abominomicon that players can enter to receive their reward. So as the second boss, is Monoculars harder than the first? Well, kinda yes and kinda no. With the fight having a time limit of 2 minutes, it is a bit harder, but as there is a truce between the 2 teams, it actually is a bit easier. Since no one can capture the point or kill the enemy team, they just instead focus on killing Monoculars. Getting hit by the eye missiles is a pretty easy way to die, especially when he gets anchored and fires them out a lot faster. Soldier and Heavy can dish out the most damage against Monoculars, but have more difficulty dodging his attacks. Demoman and Engineer are also quite effective at hurting the boss, but Medic and Pyro aren't good at damaging it, but they can help out with their supportive abilities. The Scout is quite good, as he can easily dodge the eye missiles, though one hit will kill him. The Sniper is okay, though he will have to charge his sniper rifle up to do a good amount of damage. The Spy, once again, isn't that great at hurting the boss, but can survive an attack using the Dead Ringer. So overall, I'd say Monoculars is actually a bit easier than the last boss. It may fall short in difficulty, but in design, I find Monoculars to shine quite a bit more than the Horseman. For one, we have an actual reason that the Mercs are even fighting the boss. The story of how the Demo Man lost his eye is a nice treat, and quite funny when you see that Marasmus is the soldier's roommate. The map is a redesign, but pulls off the spooky setting well. There are some ghosts that will appear from time to time that spook the player just like the Horseman did. The boss design itself is quite simple, it's just a brown eye floating around, though I do find its explosive attacks from the Abominomicon to be a funny surprise. The voice the boss makes sounds evil enough, and I like how the boss can be angered, making it more difficult. It's nice how there's an actual health bar now, showing how much health the boss has. Traveling to the underworld and getting powered up to weaken the boss is also a fun mechanic. Overall, I find Monoculars to be a better designed boss than the last one, so I'm once again gonna say we have a good boss fight here. It's not as difficult, but Monoculars is a more fun boss fight in my opinion. Finally, we have our last boss fight for this game. It's none other than the soldier's roommate, Marasmus the Magician. Marasmus returns to his home only to find that the soldier has destroyed it and turned it into a raccoon sanctuary. Marasmus then decides to take matters into his own hands and enters a ghostly form to kill all the mercenaries. Marasmus will spawn on one end of the control point, loudly announcing his arrival. He has quite a number of attacks compared to the first two bosses. First, there is his staff, which he will sometimes whack a player with. He also raises it into the air to cast a spell that hits all players around them, launching them into the air. He also throw out a bomb that will explode after a few seconds. At some point, the Abominomicon will appear and turn two players' heads into bombs. If the player runs into Marasmus, they'll explode, launching themselves into the air, powering them up with Uber and crits. This will stun Marasmus, causing him to lose his ghostly form, which makes him take crit damage from everyone else attacking him. He'll teleport around the control point in the middle, sometimes summoning the Abominomicon to him, showering the area with bombs everywhere. Once his health reaches the halfway mark, he'll disappear and turn into a random prop. A bunch of other props will appear around the map. You must find Marasmus by shooting the right prop, or he will continue to heal himself. Once he is found, he'll resume attacking the players around him. He'll do the prop hunt one more time when he is close to dying. After about 2 minutes, if he hasn't been killed, Marasmus will fly away. If, however, he is killed, his book will remain and players can travel to Loot Island for their reward. So how does Marasmus' difficulty and design hold up to the other bosses? Well, I'd say pretty good. His difficulty is higher than the others, as he has a lot more mechanics to his fight, like more attacks to dodge and ways of damaging him. His most devastating attacks are definitely his spell that he casts out, as it not only damages all those around him, but launches them into the air, which will cause players to take fall damage. His Abominomicon attack is pretty strong too, but easy to dodge. Just stay away from the center point area. Scouts, spies, and medics aren't that great at damaging Marasmus, though scouts are pretty useful for when the boss is hiding. Soldiers, demomen, and heavies can deal consistently average damage to the boss, making them pretty good for fighting him. An engineer sentry actually does less damage to Marasmus, and he can't be set on fire by the pyro, so that makes them not that great either. The sniper is actually the best class against Marasmus. All of his sniper rifles do increased damage, especially if it's a headshot, but the best weapon to use against the boss would be the sniper's bow, the Huntsman. It can do over 1000 damage if you manage to hit Marasmus in the head. It doesn't have a lot of ammo, but you will be out-damaging a heavy if you use this weapon. Marasmus is, in my opinion, the best designed boss in the game. Well, maybe not in looks, as he does just look like a goofy wizard. I like how he has a lot more attacks than the previous bosses. From bombs to spells, it fits what we have learned about him in the Team Fortress 2 comics. The map is definitely one of my favorites, as it adds a few new things, like these towers on the point and this death pit by this health pack. I do feel like the round goes on for a bit too long though. A team having to hold the point for 7 minutes takes a while, especially when fighting Marasmus resets the point. I like how the Abominomicon got a voice and personality too. It's really fun, especially how he doesn't really care which side he's on. It's also neat how Marasmus takes crit damage when he's not in his ghostly form. The prop hunt is a nice touch too, as it changes up the fight and shows Marasmus' cowardice. Finally, the voice of Marasmus is a hoot to listen to. Like, seriously, who doesn't poop in their pumpkin pants whenever they hear this guy speak? This definitely is the best boss fight in the game. From the interesting design choices, Marasmus shows how you can make a great first-person shooter boss fight. Now there is one more boss fight in the game, but I don't think it's really worth mentioning. The Skeleton King. It's just a remodel of the Horseman, who just shows up out of the blue, summoning other skeletons. The fact that the game itself doesn't really consider it a boss fight is enough proof for me to not review it. So, out of 3 bosses, we have 2 good boss fights and 1 great boss fight. That's extraordinary, as first-person shooters generally don't have boss fights, and usually if they do, they're not that good. So that was my opinion on the boss fights of Team Fortress 2. Do you guys agree with me, or do you have opinions of your own? Let me know, and I'll see you guys next time on Boss Reviews.